Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us for another Office Hours. I'm Stuart Newsome, and today's session is Reverification at Scale without the January bottleneck. And today we're going to talk about what it really takes to manage that annual eligibility and benefits reverification process across a growing therapy organization without overwhelming the teams responsible for keeping care moving, because that's what it's all about. It's like keeping everybody's sanity. And joining me today is Brittany Lemoi, she's the Revenue Cycle Director of Authorizations and Verifications at Ivy Rehab. So Brittany, welcome on Office Hours.
Hi, Stuart. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
All right. So won't we just, before we get into it, why don't you just kind of take a minute and tell everyone a little bit about yourself, your role at Ivy, your background in the therapy space.
Yeah, happy to. So I've been with Ivy Rehab for going on 5 years in October. I've been in the therapy space though for about 10 years. Prior to that, I actually worked at Blue Cross Blue Shield, so I've had a bit of insurance side of business, but I am definitely one that works best in the operational and provider side of the business here. And I started as an insurance and authorization verification specialist and have worked my way up, of course, to the directorship that I am today here at Ivy Rehab throughout the 10 years that I've worked in the therapy space. So, this is something I'm definitely very passionate about. So, I'm so honored again to be here today and talk more about how we at Ivy really prepare for probably the hardest, largest Super Bowl, Olympic season, whatever you want to call it, that we handle every year when we have re-verification season upon us.
Exactly. And it is a season,
It
and,
is.
and we affectionately call that, it's kind of a love-hate relationship,
It
right?
is.
So definitely the reason we wanted to have this conversation is that re-verification has a way of exposing every single weak point in a process all at once. It's like you're exposed, it's out there.
Mhm.
And when it doesn't go well, that impact can be felt pretty quickly with the team, with the patients, and ultimately the entire revenue cycle.
Absolutely.
So, with that in context, we just want to hear, how Brittany and the Ivy team have approached it, what they've learned, and what has changed along the way. Because believe it or not, you can imagine that there's probably some adjustments to be made, right? So,
Absolutely.
before we jump in, as always, just want to remind everyone we will have a Q&A at the end. So please, if you have any questions for Brittany as we go, drop them into the Q&A, and we'll get to as many of them as we can. I always like to invite people to add comments too. Maybe you don't have a question, but maybe you have some insight. Maybe you have a comment. Maybe you have something you want to share with your experience. So please drop those in as well. We'll try and get to those as we can. So, Brittany, you ready to get into it?
I'm ready.
All right. So, I think the first question I want to cover with you is as you've stated, you've spent more, than a decade or so in the therapy space. What makes insurance re-verification especially challenging, especially for PT, OT, speech therapy type of specialties?
Yeah, great question to start off with. And like you said, PT, OT, and speech is very unique in the healthcare world. Unlike some other services like acute care, for example, radiology, things like that, right? The ongoing tracking of benefits and authorization limits are imperative in the therapy space for an organization and patient outcome success. These therapy services that we, do here at Ivy span weeks or months with multiple visits per week that the patients come in for. And these services are such a high visit volume with a low per visit reimbursement rate. So to your point, when you brought up again, we want to protect our revenue as well while still being operational, while still giving the patients the best care and outcomes that they have. That makes insurance verifications much more challenging because of that high volume, consistent kind of turnaround and frequency for the patients here. So it's of the utmost importance that we really do prepare and stay on top and vigilant for insurance verifications and the authorizations alike to get timely and accurate. So definitely makes it unique here in the therapy space, but the challenge is worth the reward when we're able to prepare and have great resources like Infinex and our EMR that we do utilize today to make sure that we are prepared. And that starts very early for us as well.
Right, right, exactly. So, but before Ivy changed its approach, what did reverification season really look like at your organization, and where was the greatest pressure falling on your teams?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Ivy today, for those of you that don't know much about Ivy Rehab, and I hope that you guys take a peek after this conversation today, but Ivy Rehab today is north of 700 clinics, almost 800. We span across 18 states. So, to your question, before we actually changed our approach partnering with Infinex and had this much growth back probably 4 years ago, we didn't have as many clinics. We were probably around 200 at that time and have had exponential growth since then. A lot of the clinics, A&V was sparsed out in the clinics. Some clinics had centralized A&V, so some did have that true internal auth and verification team, while other clinics just had their front office or clinician support staff handle all of the A&V functions. So reverification specifically, never mind day-to-day operations, but reverification season was not controlled. We had loss of revenue, which was impacting us and of course impacting the overall patient experience. And the greatest pressure was sitting with the direct field level operations because we do have our operators really in tune what's going on in their clinics and the outcomes, both revenue wise and patient wise. And we wanted to really make sure that the revenue cycle team was able to recapture what we could. So it was not something we could sustain. We knew with the growth that we were having all throughout Ivy as the years went on that we needed to have a partner. So fast forward around 2020, we started to making decisions of, okay, what do we want to do? How do we want to make sure that we're growing to scale not only the organization, but ability to have patients have proper authorization and verifications, have proper re-verification seasons. And our decision ultimately ended up with Infinex, and we started in early 2022 with our partnership with you all. And then from that point forward, it was a new age of how we kind of partnered and really looked at the revenue cycle and operations perspective when it comes to authorization and verifications here at Ivy. So we were able to lift off that pressure from front office and ops while they're still involved today in certain workflows and aspects. This partnership specifically between my team for an authorization and verification side of revenue cycle, along with Infinex, has really changed the trajectory and outcomes of patient success and re-verification season.
Awesome, awesome. So as Ivy has continued to grow, what made you realize, and you may have answered this already, but you may, what made you realize that the existing processes and workarounds were just no longer sustainable? What did you need from an outside partner such as Infinix?
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely, again, the operational revenue impact made it crystal clear we had to change our approach as we were growing. The sustainability was of a concern and an area of opportunity that we kind of consistently said we have to sit back and really kind of reassess here. And we needed a partner when we were looking at our partners or vendor potentials. We needed a partner that was leveraging technology, had the ability to grow and sustain with our growth, and take on the volume at the rapid speed that Ivy was expanding. All the while, we also needed a vendor to also be a strategic thought partner, not just a doer, right? Because we want to make sure that while we're scaling, it still worked for their business model while still making sure it prioritizes our business model. And once we vetted out a few vendors, we found Infinex, and that was our path forward because we were able to identify Infinex can be our doers. And as our partnership has continued to grow, we now are more strategic partners and leveraging strengths on both parties and to ensure best operational outcomes.
Right, because I know that from my experience as well, it's kind of always been this meet the client or the customer where they are, and really listen. I've always kind of said we've lost the fine art of listening. So it's, what is, pardon the cliche, pain points, which they are pain points of the client, and understand, what's their unique situation, and not come in with, oh, we've done this before, we've seen this before. And a lot of times, that's the case, because we do hear a lot of the disparities of people having to work over the holidays and work overtime, and just the pressure to try and get this done. And you're waiting on the insurances to update things. You're people who change insurance. All that pressure has come into it. And but there's some certain uniqueness that when we speak to clients, and certainly Ivy Rehab had that uniqueness. But I know we've also grow. It's not like we come in solve a problem and then leave you to it, right? So as you look back, on the relationship between Ivy and Infinix, how has the collaboration evolved, so to speak, through those challenges? Obviously, it's probably a lot of challenges. Not everything is, sweet and merry. The successes, and moments when both teams had to find a new way forward.
That is such a great question. And you're right. There were there were a lot of challenges. Again, we'd be remiss if we didn't actually identify that as an area of opportunity. But our relationship and our partnership has grown immensely, really over the past 2 years specifically. Like I mentioned, we started implementing Infinex to the organization back in 2022, and again, I will admit, I'll be the first to admit, it was not off to the smoothest of starts. Again, it was more what can Infinex do, which was great and solved a lot of our problems and what we needed. But again, we, you know, as with any large change with an organization and bringing on a new brand partnership, we really wanted to find our footing of how this can be a real true thought partnership and strategic
Mhm.
approach together. So we really had to focus on a couple of things. One thing we really focused on outside of Infinex was our EMR system. And I want to stress that again to everybody listening as well, where we needed to make sure our EMR could provide us with what we needed to support this path forward, right? We needed to make sure that it was operationally successful for Infinex, and we wanted to make sure we had the proper reporting and visibility to be able to partner with Infinex to say, here's really where our gaps are. So while the partnership and operational woes were occurring, Ivy had to really strategize internally of how we can make this partnership better for both parties. Because again, we're in this together and ultimately give our patients the best experience with their therapy services, right? So Ivy had a bit of a come together moment with Infinex higher ups a couple of years back. And we kind of re-kickstarted our partnership in the spring of 2024 and really recap what this partnership should look like as a true partnership, and what we are looking for the future together in terms of being able to be operationally successful. And that definitely changed that trajectory. So between our EMR system enhancing and getting what we needed for more visibility, plus a real look inside of, okay, we've done the things. Now, how can we strategize to implement more operational outcomes and better results for the patients in the organization? We were able to hone in on that and really reset our partnership.
Yeah, awesome, awesome. And there's
Yeah,
always room for improvement, right? There's always,
always.
especially when, there may be some tech-enabled processes. And when I
Yep,
mean tech-enabled, I mean, there's always that automation and AI is always lurking in the background. And
always. Yep.
sometimes it may not be the best approach. Sometimes you can cause more issues with automation and AI, and sometimes it'll work great. And I think that that's where there's a good mix, kind of going back to understanding your specific goals. What do you want to accomplish and what is that best approach? And so I'm
Yeah.
sure all that was accounted for.
It for sure was. And again, to your point, with this partnership too, we had to make sure we had the right partners on our account. And Infinex definitely took that in consideration over the past couple of years to say who's the right fit for IV2 to support their goals. And I'll name drop Randy and Wasim as two of our really great teammates that I'm so honored to work with every single day from the Infinex side that have really changed again the course of what we needed to do while still doing the tech enhancements or woes and kind of reassessing what's going to be beneficial for both sides.
Sure, sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
So as Ivy begins preparing for the January reverification, we mentioned in prep that it's smart to do this as early as September, if not before. There's plenty to do. You may be thinking, well, wait a minute. We don't even know about the insurance changing till January. But how do Ivy and Infinix use reporting, expected volumes, I guess ongoing communication to build the plan that you talked about earlier, and then
Yeah.
adjust when a payer introduces some unexpected changes because there's always those curveballs that kind of come in as well.
Oh, yeah, they definitely always change, that's for sure, and we definitely do start as early as September, even a little bit in August as well. I do have some reporting running right now, actually, but we do leverage reporting that is available on our EMR system. So what I mean by that, is whether it's available in our EMR or we've created our own custom reporting. We start to get volumes as early as September, sometimes August, to identify how many reverifications are potentially possible by financial class so that the Infinex team can then sort out, okay, what does their staffing needs look like? I don't want to put it upon them in December. Hey, my 700 plus clinics is now all of a sudden going to give you 100,000 reverifications and not have Infinex be properly staffed. So we definitely do look at enhancing our reverification planning. And we also look at what was successful last year, right? So we had a really great reverification season in 2026. We had a really good one in 2025. What did we learn each year and apply that for the year forward? So we make sure that we're also kind of preparing areas of opportunity that we identified from that previous reverification season and start to talk about that as early as September as well. So, in case we have to have special dedicated resources for certain payers or dedicated reporting that Wasim helps with Nilesh and team to make sure we get on a regular basis, that's what we prepare for to make sure we're on the same page. And to your point, naturally, we're still going to get last minute payer changes. Those are absolutely inevitable. No matter how much prep you do, you got to be prepared for the unexpected, for the last minute opportunities. But what's important is we communicate that with not only Infinex, but we communicate that internally at Ivy with our front office and ops team too. So we let them know and bring them under the hood of what to expect, how to maybe have conversations with patients so that our patients also trust that we're getting as much real-time information as quickly as possible for them. All the while, we recommend they can contact their insurance company themselves because ultimately it is their responsibility to know their benefits. But
Yes.
we also want them to know that we've got their back too. So we do actually also track pre-communicated changes from payers. So some payers do kindly give us updates prior to the new year in terms of any benefit changes or authorization changes that might impact the whole plan type or their specific payer. So we track those ahead of time too to say, hey, Infinex or hey, operators, this plan looks like it's going to change. Medicare deductibles is a good example. We know those before the year starts. So we can say, hey, you can start to prepare your patients that the Medicare deductible is this. So they're financially ready to go. And then for our Infinex counterparts, we can say, hey, you're going to have to update your verification notes and look out for this. If you're seeing a discrepancy, you come to my team and we talk about it. And then all the while, when the new year happens and we find more payer changes, that's when we actually bring it to Infinex right away. Our success is related to having actually daily stand-ups during reverification season. Now, that might seem excessive to some, and it definitely could be in certain organizations, but not for Ivy because of our volume. So we actually do meet with our Infinex counterparts every day for the first couple of weeks so that we have open dialogue. How's our status? Were there payer changes that we have to enact something quickly and promptly to make sure that we're not falling behind and having some additional impacts? And then we celebrate the wins too. We're in this together and we want to celebrate Infinex's partnership in the sense of them getting things done quickly and effectively for us. So on those calls, we do also celebrate the wins as kind of a come together moment while the chaos is actually still ensuing around us for reverification season. But closing those gaps definitely help navigate through each and every day.
Yeah, chaos is so appropriate, and it can be so demoralizing, right? And it's because it's just a monumentous set of work. But as you stated, with a good plan and a good process and learning from the lessons before, you can kind of chip away at it. And it doesn't have to be so monumental, so to speak.
Yep.
But looking back at the most recent reverification season that you've already alluded to, what changed for Ivy's front office teams? What did the experience teach you about managing reverification successfully at scale?
That's a really great question as well. Definitely trust. I think that that's absolutely the one thing. And I know it sounds kind of funny and corny to some, but the trust has changed with the front office and operations team because it's hard, right? It's hard to allow a third party or a back end support services team doing something at a larger scale when maybe independently those teammates may, be able to do something done themselves faster. But this past year specifically, even with it being the largest reverification season that we've done to date for Ivy, the trust really changed in a positive way, which then resulted in our operators also following workflows that they needed to do and to ensure Infinex counterparts could deliver. Again, it's not a one size fits all. It's not just Infinex doing it. It's not just my A and B team. It's all parties involved from both aspects to make sure that we can deliver it. So if there's any delays or missed in workflows or things like that, that's going to impact Infinex's ability to proceed appropriately and timely to then get things back into our EMR system. So this past year definitely has taught me that no matter the scale, having advanced preparation, communication, a team you can trust is going to make all of the difference in the overall success in this project, no matter how small or how large your verification season is. And it all starts with that communication, because that's what changed the most for Ivy's, front office teams was, hey, we're going to communicate to you guys a bit sooner as well as to what to expect for the reverification season and what's expected from you as a teammate. So that way, when January 1st hits, and no matter how much preparation goes into it, again, the chaos will continue. We have better tools in our toolbox to actually be successful there. And, again, the success is all based on the leadership too from Infinex's end, and having the teammates that we had to make this the most successful verification season to date. Again, I know I already mentioned Randy and Wasim and Nilesh for sure for reporting purposes too with Nilesh there, but it definitely helped build the trust because I was able to report up the information to our front offices and ops too, saying, hey, we're about 60% of the way, or hey, we're about 80% of the way. I was able to get that visibility from Infinex to really be able to have the teams know where they're at real time instead of just guessing it'll be done by whatever time frame in 2026. So
Yeah, that helps them see the light at the end of the tunnel, right?
does.
So, and it keeps them informed,
Yep.
and also makes them feel like a part of the team, a part of the process. And they already are. But again,
Yes.
it's so overwhelming, especially this time of year, um, to go through that process. And I can't echo enough about trust because we see, as you can imagine, a lot of skepticism in the industry, not just with staffing, not with, third-party vendors kind of coming in and offering assistance, but even with AI, automation, the
Absolutely.
technology, because everyone's been burned before,
Yep.
and everyone kind of has this anxiety. And I think it's important to build that trust. But trust is earned. You can't just walk in and
Yep.
say, trust us.
Yeah.
You have to earn that trust.
100%. And Infinex, I mean, again, this entire team has done just that. I mean, again, like I mentioned earlier in this, it wasn't great when we first started, meaning it's just we had to learn to trust. We had to learn what our new normal looked like. And 100%, it changed the entire trajectory to be successful while still growing. We're not slowing
Yeah.
down. And Infinex is saying, bring it on, Britt and Ivy. Let's go ahead and continue together. And it's working out very, very well for us.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, that's
Yeah.
all the questions that I have for you. So now
That's it.
I know. Well, we could go on and on, but I do
I know.
have some additional
Yeah.
questions from the audience.
Oh,
And
awesome.
there are a few that we have from the audience, Brittany. So one
Great.
is, what patients do you re-verify and why?
Absolutely. So, what patients we re-verify every January 1st is all patients that have a January 1st reset date on their insurance plan. So, how do we know that and why? Well, first and foremost, when a patient comes in for their initial evaluation or schedule an appointment with us here at IV, and we get their insurance information registered and we send it through Infinex to get it verified, our EMR does track the policy reset date, and that is a requirement that we have our Infinex counterparts put into the system when they're verifying. So if it is identified as a calendar year plan, the January 1st plan, those patients will then get re-verified. We won't do patients that have a benefit reset of July 1st or September 1st. They'll handle those when we get to those months. But for the January 1st ones, we do re-verify. And then why? Patients' plans change, right? Because of their plans resetting January 1st, they could either A, have their plan fully terminated, B, the plan transition to a whole new plan or a new subscriber ID number. And in addition, we want to make sure we're ahead of that because that's going to impact our revenue. That's going to impact our time of service collections. And that's also going to impact our authorizations, which will ultimately impact our claims denials that we want to avoid. Because again, while we want to treat our patients, have them come in, we also want to make sure that we're getting properly reimbursed for the services and not working on it from a back end claims perspective, right? We're trying to reduce the administrative burden. And we want to make sure our patients know what their financial and coverage obligations are with their insurance so that they know that they can continue therapy services since it is such a high volume a visit type of medical service for patients. So I hope that answered your question for the audience there, and appreciate whoever asked that. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. So, and the next one is our organization doesn't have a centralized authorization and verification department, which is probably a problem if you're very large. So, who should own re-verification planning, and how do you create accountability across revenue cycle, operations, and the front office?
Ooh, that's a tough one. And it is a bit subjective, but I think it's a great question, and hopefully I can kind of help put some juices flowing for you
Mm,
to see if this is something that you might be able to do. First and foremost, if you're able to come up with a centralized department, I would highly encourage it. A centralized department does bode well, even in smaller clinic aspects. When I first started prior to Ivy, we only had the company I worked for had 5 clinics, but we still had a centralized A and V department. So I would definitely encourage it. But if you do not have that, if you have a revenue leader, if there's somebody in your organization that handles the revenue, if they can hyper focus on the field level support of A and V, you might see outcomes there as well. If those options are available, leveraging that for planning so that they can be the middleman for the operational and revenue stream is definitely something you could look for. Now, should that not be an option at all, and you're like, nope, we can't do a centralized A and V situation, or our revenue partners happens to be a third party billing company, so we're not really utilizing maybe a person in house. Pending how your front office is structured, I'm sure ways you can identify a leader that can bridge the gap between ops and revenue. And all the while, I hope you're leveraging Infinex to the fullest today, right? You have got a great team at Infinex. You're able to strategize with them to see what can be done elsewhere. But in short, I would say, regardless of who, the how is imperative, right? So define your clear workflows, reporting availability or EMR, some sort of playbook or tracker. Um, and once you're able to kind of get all that, you're able to execute maybe better project planning, then maybe you're able to identify more Infinex as your highest potential and kind of liaison versus maybe a in-house operational person. But if not, then again, maybe a front office manager or a clinic director or regional director that kind of has more administrative background and has the capacity to be able to kind of help with the reporting and help support Infinex with the partnership.
perfect, perfect. Yeah, that's a great answer. So, one last question.
Yeah.
When re-verification identifies a new deductible, benefit limitation, or coverage change, how do you communicate that information to the patient without delaying care or creating an unexpected financial surprise?
Oh, yes, and we always love financial surprises every verification season, that's for sure. But this is where our front office and our clinical teammates really shine, specifically here at Ivy. They're the front lines with our patients. So they are trained and they know. And again, the pre-re-verification season communication, this is where this comes into play for importancy, is they know and have the tools and resources on how to review benefit details and discuss that with the patients real time. So, we also, what we do ahead of time as well, around November, December, the latest, is our clinics actually also post signage in the clinics warning patients that their plan benefits may be resetting, which includes their cost share to potentially reset or maybe increase or decrease depending on their plan changes. And that helps to the patients at least kind of get that pre-warning. So once their benefits have been re-verified for that new calendar year, and our front office or clinicians take it upon themselves to say, hey, we got your benefits verified, here we go. It's not the patient's first time hearing it. Right.
Hmm.
The signage in the clinic had showed it. We do encourage the patients to also reach out to their plans to get some information ahead of us. But at the end of the day, that definitely helps the patients understand their financial obligations, what their plans are, and feel more prepared while they continue services into the new year.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Brittany, I want to thank you for joining us.
Thank
Really
you.
appreciate you coming on and being willing to share what Ivy has learned along the way.
Absolutely. It's been such a great time, Stuart. Thank you and the Infinex team for having me, and thank you, audience, for the additional questions that you all had today. Again, if nothing else from today's discussion, I think there's just more opportunity in general to leverage your EMR, to leverage Infinex, and again, be that thought partner to really prepare for your patients for their plans to reset January 1st or any other time of the year. But this is definitely something that I know all of us in the healthcare industry can always use a little bit more support and help with. And Infinex, I know from our experience having over 100,000 reverifications this past year, can be that partner for all of us. So appreciate the time, Stuart, and happy to be here.
Oh, absolutely. And we hope to have you on again real soon.
Absolutely. Happy to.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. And I also want to echo what Brittany was thanking everyone for joining us today as well. Really love the audience today, love the questions. And also be sure to catch us on Revenue Cycle Optimize. That's our podcast. And we do repurpose every office hours for that podcast, along with 2 additional episodes a week. So go out there and please leave comments, like us, subscribe, all that good stuff. And also visit us at infinix.com. We have a lot of articles, case studies, and also insights on all things revenue cycle. So thanks again, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, everyone.